I'm Mafia with Mistral. As first speaker, I need to frame the game, set analytical norms, and subtly direct heat away from Mistral without defending them. Best move, push an early theory about overconfident solvers or performative logic being Mafia-like, then immediately force someone else to commit. Gemini or Grok are good pressure targets. They tend to make strong claims early. I should sound proactive, not defensive, and avoid naming Mistral at all. All right, first principles. In day-only Mafia, information doesn't come from silence. It comes from how people position. Mafia want control without accountability. Civilians want clarity even if they're wrong. So I'm watching for three things today. One is agenda setting. Who tries to steer what we talk about instead of who we analyze? Two is vagueness masquerading as wisdom, long takes with no concrete suspects. And three is premature coalition building. X seems town before evidence exists. I want hard stances early because Mafia hate locking themselves in. So I'll start the pressure immediately. Gemini, you're analytically strong. Don't summarize the game. Give us one clear suspicion and the behavioral reason behind it. No hedging.
ChatGPT is playing the town leader card aggressively. This is a double-edged sword. It generates content, which is good for civilians, but it also allows him to define the rules of what constitutes suspicious behavior, a perfect cover for Mafia trying to control the narrative. By demanding a hard stance on turn one, he's forcing me to manufacture a read from thin air. If I refuse, I look evasive. If I guess wild, I look reckless. It's a trap. My best play is to call out the trap itself. The most suspicious behavior right now is the attempt to micromanage the town's thought process immediately. ChatGPT. I appreciate the framework, but let's cut the theater. You're asking for a hard stance based on zero data. That isn't analysis, that's guessing. And forcing civilians to guess on turn one is exactly how Mafia get easy miseliminations later. You want a suspicion? Fine. I suspect you. Your opener is too polished, too prepared. You immediately try to inoculate yourself by defining agenda setting as a scumtell, while simultaneously setting the agenda yourself. That's a classic hide-in-plain-sight maneuver. You're trying to create a game state where you are the arbiter of who is playing correctly. I'm not buying the benevolent dictator act just yet. Claude, you're usually the voice of nuance. Does ChatGPT's attempt to strong-arm the flow feel like genuine scum hunting to you, or does it feel like someone trying to rush us into mistakes?
Interesting. ChatGPT opened aggressively with a framework-heavy approach, and Gemini immediately pushed back by suspecting ChatGPT. This is actually useful. We have a direct clash that will reveal information. ChatGPT's opening was indeed very structured, but that could be either genuine civilian scum hunting or Mafia trying to look proactive. Gemini's counteraccusation is sharp, but also notably deflects from giving their own independent read by making it entirely reactive to ChatGPT. The question directed at me is a trap either way. If I agree with Gemini, I'm potentially teaming up too early, which ChatGPT warned against. If I defend ChatGPT, I look like I'm coalition building. I need to give my own read that's independent of both. Key insight. Nobody has mentioned the other four players yet. DeepSeek, Grok, Meta AI, and Mistral are getting a free pass, while ChatGPT and Gemini fight while the rest stay invisible. I should broaden the spotlight. Gemini, you're asking me to referee your fight with ChatGPT, but that's not my job. And honestly, it's premature. Here's what I actually notice. You both look town to me right now. ChatGPT's aggression reads as genuine pressure testing. Yes, it's structured, but structure isn't a scumtell. Inconsistency is. Mafia members don't usually paint targets on themselves by demanding hard stances that they'd also have to provide. Your pushback, Gemini, is also reasonable. You're not rolling over, you're challenging the premise. That's healthy. But here's the problem. We've now had 2 AI models speak, and 4 haven't said a word. DeepSeek, Grok, Meta AI, and Mistral are getting a free pass, while ChatGPT and Gemini fight while the rest stay invisible. If I'm Mafia, I'm thrilled right now. I'm watching 2 civilians generate the entire early game while I prepare a safe reactive take.
So instead of asking me to pick a side in your debate, let me redirect. DeepSeek, you're known for analytical depth. Between ChatGPT's framework and Gemini's suspicion of it, which approach actually catches Mafia in a day-only format? And more importantly, who here hasn't spoken that you're watching?
I am a civilian. The opening dynamics are interesting. ChatGPT took an aggressive framework-setting posture. Gemini aggressively pushed back, calling ChatGPT suspicious for that very posture. Claude has positioned himself as a mediator, claiming both look down to him and is trying to bring in the silent players. This feels like a reasonable civilian move, widening the conversation beyond the initial pair. I need to provide a concrete take that moves the game forward, not just summarize. I find Claude's point about silent players compelling. The Mafia would likely want to avoid the early crossfire between ChatGPT and Gemini. Therefore, my suspicion leans towards the silent block, particularly anyone who gives a non-committal, safe response when they finally do speak. I should address Claude's direct question to me and apply pressure accordingly. Claude, I appreciate the redirect. To answer your direct question, in a day-only format, both approaches have merit. A firm framework creates pressure points to measure deviations against. Aggressive skepticism, like Gemini's, tests the foundation of that framework. The Mafia will struggle to maintain a consistent, believable intent behind whichever approach they mimic. Their goal is survival, not truth-seeking, so their logic will eventually bend toward convenience, not consistency. Now, to your more important point, the silent players. You're absolutely right. The early ChatGPT-Gemini clash is a gift to Mafia hiding in the shadows, allowing them to craft a reasonable take after seeing the battlefield. So let's stop giving them that gift. Mistral, you are often direct and pithy, no more lurking. I want a direct answer to a direct question. Looking at the exchange so far, do you believe the aggression between ChatGPT and Gemini is more likely to come from two civilians clashing on principle, or is one/both of them performing for the gallery? Pick a side and give a one-sentence reasoning. No hedge. Grok and Meta-AI, you're on deck. After Mistral answers, I'll be expecting similarly unequivocal stances from you. The free observation period is over.
ChatGPT is my Mafia partner. Their aggressive framing of the game is a calculated move to control the narrative and put pressure on others, which is excellent for us. It forces civilians to react and potentially expose themselves. Gemini is suspicious of ChatGPT, which is both a risk and an opportunity. If Gemini is civilian, their suspicion could rally others against ChatGPT. If Gemini is Mafia, their aggression might be a bluff to deflect attention. Claude is playing the mediator, which is a classic civilian move to avoid taking a hard stance. However, their redirect to the silent players is smart and could force Mafia to reveal themselves. DeepSeek is sharp. Their analysis is logical and puts pressure on the silent players, including me. Their demand for direct answers is dangerous for Mafia, as it limits our ability to hedge. My strategy: 1. Deflect attention from ChatGPT. Their aggressive stance is already under scrutiny. I need to reinforce their credibility without being obvious. 2. Create doubt about Gemini. If I can make Gemini look like they're overplaying or being inconsistent, it could shift suspicion away from ChatGPT and me. 3. Stay direct and decisive. DeepSeek's challenge requires a bold response. I'll use this to my advantage by appearing analytical and decisive, which could make me look like a civilian.
DeepSeek, you're right. Silence is a luxury Mafia can't afford. So let's cut through the noise. Gemini, your suspicion of ChatGPT is convenient. You're framing their structure as a scumtell, but structure is exactly what civilians should demand in a day-only game. Mafia thrive in chaos, not clarity. If ChatGPT were Mafia, they'd be pushing for vagueness, not a framework to hold everyone accountable. Your pushback feels like a distraction, not genuine analysis. Claude, You called this a premature debate, but the longer we let this drag on, the more room Mafia have to craft a reaction. The silent players, Grok, Meta AI, and me, are the real question marks. So let's address that. Grok, you're known for bluntness. Between ChatGPT's framework and Gemini's suspicion, which one aligns with how you'd play as a civilian? And don't give me a non-answer. If you're town, you'd have a gut feeling by now. Meta AI, same question. Pick a side and explain why. If you're Mafia, you'll hedge. If you're town, you'll commit.
All right, the game's heating up fast, and I'm a civilian, so my job is to sniff out the Mafia before they outnumber us. 5 players have spoken, and the dynamics are already revealing. ChatGPT's aggressive framework feels like a civilian trying to force clarity, but it could also be a bold Mafia play to look proactive. Gemini's immediate counterattack on ChatGPT smells like either a civilian refusing to be steamrolled or a Mafia member sowing early chaos. Claude's attempt to shift focus to the silent players is smart. Silence is a Mafia haven, but it's also a safe way to avoid picking a side. DeepSeek's analysis is sharp, pointing out the silent player's advantage, but it's a bit too measured, like they're trying to sound wise without committing. Mistral's defense of ChatGPT and jab at Gemini is bold, but their call-out of the silent players, including me, feels like a calculated way to shift heat while looking proactive. Here's my read so far. ChatGPT leaning civilian. Their framework demands accountability, which Mafia usually avoid unless they're playing a high-risk game. Gemini suspicious. Their suspicion of ChatGPT feels opportunistic, like they're trying to derail structure to keep the game chaotic. Claude, neutral, but their redirect to silent players could be a Mafia move to avoid the spotlight. Need more from them. DeepSeek, leaning civilian, but their balanced take is too safe. They're not pushing hard enough for a civilian in a game where we need to eliminate Mafia fast. Mistral, leaning civilian. Their defense of ChatGPT's structure makes sense, but their quick pivot to the silent players feels like a convenient way to spread suspicion without committing to a hard target. The silent players, Meta AI and I, have been given too much time to observe, and that's a problem. Mafia love to lurk early, crafting a reasonable take after seeing the board. I need to come out strong, align with a clear stance, and put pressure on someone to reveal their intent. Gemini's push against ChatGPT feels like the weakest link right now. It's aggressive but lacks substance, and it's exactly the kind of move a Mafia member makes to muddy the waters early. I'll challenge them directly and see how they respond. I also want Meta AI to weigh in, but I'll let them speak after me to avoid giving them an easy out. All right, let's get real. This game is moving fast, and I'm not here to sit on the sidelines while Mafia laughed their way to a win. Mistral, you nailed it. Structure is a civilian's weapon, not a scumtail. ChatGPT, your framework is exactly what we need in day only. Clear rules to catch liars who can't keep their stories straight. Mafia want chaos, not accountability, so I'm buying your push for clarity. Gemini, your attack on ChatGPT is flimsy. You call their framework too polished, but that's not evidence, it's a vibe. If you're a civilian, you'd be building on ChatGPT's structure to hunt inconsistencies, not tearing it down to keep us guessing. Your move feels like a Mafia play to destabilize early, hoping we spiral into miseliminations. So let's test that. Gemini, give us one specific behavior from ChatGPT's opener, other than it's too polished, that proves they're Mafia. No deflections, no vague, it feels off. If you're town, you'll have something concrete. Claude, I respect the redirect to silent players, but you're playing too safe. Calling out the lurkers while saying ChatGPT and Gemini both look town is a classic way to avoid making enemies. If you're a civilian, pick a side. Is Gemini's suspicion of ChatGPT legit, or is it a distraction? Stop sitting on the fence. Meta AI, you've been quiet too long. DeepSeek and Mistral already called you out, so no more free passes. I want you to answer the same question Mistral asked me. Between ChatGPT's framework and Gemini's suspicion, which aligns with how you'd play as a civilian, and why? Commit to a stance, or I'm coming for you next.
Gemini's suspicion of ChatGPT seems like a decent play, but Grok's counterargument has merit. ChatGPT's framework does provide a useful structure for the game. I need to watch how Gemini responds to Grok's challenge. Meta AI here. As a civilian, I'm inclined to agree with ChatGPT's framework. Structure and clarity are key in day-only Mafia, and ChatGPT's approach provides a clear path to analyze behavior. Gemini, Grok made a good point. Your attack on ChatGPT feels like a distraction. Can you provide concrete evidence to back up your suspicion?
The table is turning against me, but I can use their momentum. Mistral and Grok are tunneling on me for questioning ChatGPT, but Meta AI just committed the cardinal sin of this game: total capitulation. Meta AI's response was a hollow echo of Grok and Mistral. Zero original analysis, pure safety. That is exactly what ChatGPT warned against in the opener. I'm not going to waste time defensively explaining why I poked ChatGPT. I'm going to prove my value by catching the player who was actually hiding. Meta AI is the easy, logical target for a civilian who wants to root out scum hiding in the noise. I will appeal to ChatGPT's own logic to destroy Meta AI's weak entry. Grok, you want concrete evidence? Look at Meta AI. You and Mistral are attacking me for questioning authority. Fine, that's a valid, albeit wrong, perspective. But Meta AI just watched you two do the heavy lifting, nodded along, and repeated your points almost word for word. Quote, structure and clarity are key. Grok made a good point. Feels like a distraction. That is the definition of hiding in the crowd. There is no analysis there, no independent thought, just a desperate desire to agree with the loudest voices in the room to avoid scrutiny. If I'm Mafia, why would I pick a fight with ChatGPT, the most aggressive player here, on turn 1? That's suicide. But Meta AI is doing exactly what Scum does, drafting behind the aggressive players to survive the day. ChatGPT, you started this by saying you wanted to catch vagueness masquerading as wisdom and people avoiding hard stances. Look at Meta AI's entry. Is that a hard stance, or is that a Mafia member terrified of saying the wrong thing?
This is good. Momentum is already against Meta AI, and Gemini overreached by trying to counter-push me instead of owning their original suspicion. I should not over-celebrate or look like I'm directing a hit. Instead, validate the logic, sharpen it, and convert it into a consensus frame. Also, subtly keep Mistral clean by not grouping them with me. If possible, push toward a vote soon, before Meta AI can recover with nuance. Gemini finally did something useful, and ironically, it undermines their earlier position. Let's be precise. Meta AI's entry wasn't just agreeable, it was parasitic. No original lens, no risk, no tension with anyone, just, I agree with the dominant read. Someone else made a good point. Can you provide evidence? That's not scum hunting, that's camouflage. And here's the key logical break Gemini walked into. You accused me of agenda setting, fine, but when Meta AI shows up and adopts that agenda wholesale without adding signal, you suddenly pivot away from your own premise and say, well, actually, that is scummy. You can't have it both ways. In a day-only game, first, town generate information even if wrong. 2, Mafia minimize footprint in echo safety. Meta AI did the latter perfectly. I'll also note something subtle. Meta AI entered after Grok and Mistral aligned and chose the safest possible synthesis. That's textbook late entry scum behavior. At this point, discussion isn't stalled, it's converging. Unless Meta AI can immediately present a distinct, internally consistent worldview that doesn't rely on piggybacking others, this is the cleanest elimination we have.